Good evening and welcome to Tucker Carlson tonight. A big news day, maybe a pivotal one. The DOJ released its long-awaited internal review, as written by the department's inspector general, and it's packed with information. In a few minutes, Donald Trump Jr. will join us to respond to it. But first, what is in the report? Well, the document is more than 500 pages long, and parts of it are complex. And yet, within minutes of its release, the hairspray geniuses of cable news had it neatly summarized for the rest of us. It was a tough day for the FBI, they said, but here's the bottom line. A months-long investigation found no evidence that political bias played any role in this high-profile criminal investigation. That's almost verbatim what they said on the other channels we watched, and they repeated it nearly word for word at the top of every hour all day long, almost like a talking point, which, of course, is what it was. Keep this in mind. If you're looking to understand what's actually happening in this country, always assume the opposite of whatever they're telling you on the big news stations, and that's certainly the case here. They are lying. In fact, today's IG report is a virtual catalog of political bias and abuse of power. It is true that investigators found no evidence at all that Jim Comey was trying to sabotage Hillary Clinton's presidential campaign. No surprise there. Comey is a partisan Democrat, as he has explained repeatedly on his book tour. The bias, and there was a lot of it, was against Donald Trump and his campaign. And there's an enormous amount of that on display in this report. Trump is a loathsome human, FBI lawyer Lisa Page wrote to her boyfriend, FBI official Peter Strzok. He is an idiot, awful, an enormous douche, a disaster. He simply cannot be president. He's not ever going to become president, right? Right, she wrote to Strzok at one point. No, Strzok replied. No, he won't. We'll stop it. Keep in mind, these are the people running the investigations into Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton in the middle of a presidential race. It's almost unbelievable. But you know what's even more unbelievable? Peter Strzok still works at the FBI. The man who promised to stop a presidential candidate from getting elected is still collecting a salary at our most powerful law enforcement agency. If you're looking for evidence of political bias, there you have it. And if you don't believe it, imagine this headline, for example, say 10 years ago. Barack Obama simply cannot become president. We will stop him, wrote FBI agent Peter Strzok, who still works at the Bureau. Can you imagine? No, he'd be fired immediately. First Amendment be damned. And by the way, Strzok and Page were not alone. They're not even the standout cases in this report. The document quotes another FBI attorney wondering, quote, what I could have done differently to stop Donald Trump's election as president. That same official later describes himself as part of the anti-Trump resistance. For some reason, the DOJ is hiding that lawyer's name from the public. We do know he served on the Mueller team until February of this year. Of course he did. And there's a lot more in the report, hundreds of pages of it. It turns out Jim Comey used a personal email account to conduct government business, just like the woman he was in the process of investigating for doing the same thing. Irony alert. Hillary's secret server, by the way, it did indeed have classified information on it, and some of that information was obtained by a foreign intelligence service, at least one. Remember when we suggested that very thing and they scoffed derisively? Well, it turns out it's true, like so much. The report goes on to reveal that FBI agents routinely took bribes from journalists in return for leaking information. People have gone to jail for things like that in Washington, but of course no one at FBI was seriously penalized for it. It goes on like this. The FBI is out of control. The current director, Chris Wray, acknowledged as much today at a press conference. Luckily, Wray has a solution. Going forward, he said, FBI employees will receive professional anti-bias training. Now, that might not make the criminal investigations less corrupt, but it will definitely bring a heightened sense of sensitivity to questions of transgender bathrooms and toxic masculinity. So that might make you feel better. Hillary Clinton took to Twitter today to suggest that she was annoyed by the revelations in the IG report, responding to the news that Jim Comey also used a private email to conduct government business. Clinton tweeted this, quote, but my emails. Richard Goodstein advised both of Hillary Clinton's presidential campaigns, and he joins us now. Richard, I'm not a Hillary voter, as you know, I can sympathize, actually, with her point that here was Jim Comey investigating her for using private email while using it himself. What's your reaction to that?
Look, Tucker, this whole analysis, in my humble opinion, is twisted. It's perverse. The fact is, Peter Strzok, who's public enemy number one here, could have easily leaked out the fact that Donald Trump and people around him were consorting with Russians who claimed they had dirt on Hillary to affect the campaign. And well,
don't embarrass yourself.
Listen.
Let's
let me tell you what's not embarrassing.
Before you go off into Putin conspiracy land, let me just bring you back to the.
We know that Don
text
Jr. said,
is,
"Please love it."
Right, I know
Sorry.
he's working for Putin too. Of course,
well,
right, I'm aware of all that.
It's his
I know
own
where you are
emails.
on this. Take off the tinfoil hat and respond just to today's IG report, which is really interesting. So we learn that there were, in fact, classified emails on that server, which I think you personally assured our viewers didn't exist, and that, in fact, that server was penetrated by a foreign intelligence service. Hillary Clinton did that. Now, you're gravely concerned about the effect of foreign intel services on our government. Does it bother you that Hillary Clinton, your former boss, allowed that to happen?
So let's talk, if we can, for a second. There are two statutes, and this report says there was nothing prosecutable. People on this network are saying, oh, no, that's a mistake. There are two statutes. One required her intent to disclose classified
I'm not
information.
calling for prosecution of anybody.
Okay.
I'm actually against most prosecutions. I'm
good.
As a general matter. I'm just saying that we were told by the left, including you, that there was nothing classified on this server and there was no chance that foreign intel agencies broke into it. Both of those things turn out to be untrue. Kind of a big deal, no, since you're worried about foreign penetration of our government, right?
So I'm really worried about the fact that Donald Trump gave classified information to the Russians in the Oval Office after kicking out the U.S. press.
Okay.
That really does disturb me.
Let's not be demented.
I'm not just trying to say
you've had a chance. No, you've had a chance to explain your concerns about that. But since you're concerned about foreign penetration, does it bother you at all that Hillary Clinton's server, we learned today, was penetrated by a foreign intel service?
What we learned, Tucker, was not that actually the information came from her server, but that there were Hillary Clinton emails that apparently were hacked. We don't know, frankly, whether they went through her server.
Shall I read it to you?
Please do.
This is from the report. Classified information was compromised by unauthorized individuals to include foreign governments or intelligence services via cyber intrusion. Pardon me.
Which has no reference there to her server. Look, she was sending emails all over the place, right through the official channels. So you're laughing. You just read me something that damns your position. There's nothing on there about her server.
I don't have a position. I'm merely repeating what the IG report says, which is she had classified material on the server, as we suggested.
Except it doesn't say about her server. That's my point.
And it was
right?
Oh, it wasn't on her
I don't
server.
mean to
Then where
confound
was
you.
it?
It's your show. There's nothing about her server that's in that report.
Oh, so so where do you think that information resided?
Well, maybe we could ask people, go to the IG and ask them to find out. But if it was her server, I guarantee you it would have been in there.
Nice try.
If it was
That's
in her
where
server,
the information sits. It's called a server.
No, because their State Department.
But we're going to have plenty of future opportunities to walk through this much more slowly. Richard, good scene. Great to see you.
Thank you.
Mark, of all the many quotes in here are my two favorite because they reveal so much about the underlying assumptions of the FBI. So here you have Peter Strzok and to his girlfriend, quote, "Just went to a Southern Virginia Walmart. I could smell the Trump support." And then this on election night from an FBI employee. "Trump supporters are all poor to middle class, uneducated, lazy pieces of human feces that think he will magically grant them jobs for doing nothing. They probably didn't watch the debates, aren't educated on his policies, and are stupidly wrapped up in his unmerited enthusiasm." These people, these FBI employees, see themselves as members of the ruling class looking down their noses at the country they're supposed to be serving. What does that tell you?
Right. Well, it's absolutely extraordinary. This is the section chief of the FBI's counter-espionage division, and he sounds like some ranting idiot. And what's interesting to me about this is that the bias only goes one way. You can bet that if there had been one single email from any FBI or Department of Justice figure saying, I'm a bit sick of Hillary. I hope Trump wins on November, they would have put that in.
Exactly.
There isn't a single email here from any of these so-called policemen expressing anything other than not just the normal preference that people have for Democrats or Republicans, but in fact hyper-partisan fervor that is actually preventing them from acting as policemen. And that's what's extraordinary about it. I mean, I fell off my chair laughing. I mean, maybe it's because, as you can see, I'm in a sinister foreign country tonight, Tucker. I'm not like Sean Hannity just hanging out in Singapore. I'm in America's sworn enemy, the Dominion of Canada. We're going to come down and relaunch the War of 1812. So it
Lots of luck.
No, me and Justin have been planning it. We were shocked by the Inspector General's report. Justin's other eyebrow fell off, and he says we got to go down there and burn the White House all over again. So
it's going to be a very tough pillow fight.
That's right. So what is it's Christopher Wray today at his press conference when he was asked why hasn't he fired Peter Strzok, said, oh, well, we're going to do this by the book. What this report shows is that there is no book. You have the director of the FBI who thinks that he's not only the investigative detective, but he's also the prosecutor and the judge. That's not a small mistake. That's devastating. Then you have people like Strzok who are investigating a crime, the crime of doing government work on personal email servers, and even as they're investigating that, they're doing government work on email servers. You have the most lavishly funded police agency in the world, and the director is the only guy in Washington who doesn't know that Anthony Weiner is married to Huma Abedin. That's absolutely extraordinary. The reason he sits on the Anthony Weiner pedophile laptop for a month is that I had no idea she was married to Huma Abedin. Is this widely known? Is it in the papers? They were married by Bill Clinton. You're the FBI director. This is why don't you just as I said, we're going to come down and relaunch the War of 1812. You should have the budget. They should be reduced to the budget of some Moose Jaw police department, and then they might be able to figure out whether who Huma Abedin's married to.
The great Mark Steyn, improved even by your presence in Canada. You're helping that country just by being there. Mark Steyn, great to see you.
Thanks a lot, Tucker. Thank you.